What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Dom P. We're back here once again, and you already know what time it is when you see me in front of your TV. Number one thing's for certain, and three things are for sure. Number one, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, not none of that static. And number three, perhaps the most important number of them all. Number three. Want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And you may be asking yourself, how, Don? How, Mr. P, does one keep their Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. I'll let you know right now. I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to keep it from you. Number one, smash the like button. Number two, subscribe. Number three, share with your peoples. Now, I gave you one or two or three, but it really doesn't matter if you do it. Number one is number one, and number two, it doesn't matter. Once you've done it, you have indeed kept your Lions news pragmatic. And speaking about your peoples, when you share this with your mothers, your brothers, your fathers, your cousins, your sisters, your uncles, your brothers, your fathers, you name it, you have indeed cared about those people. All right, let's get into it, man, because we got some things to say today. There are some things that are going on other than the Mike McDaniel situation with the interview that he did have, and we are just patiently waiting for word. I don't know if he's left the city of Detroit. I don't know if he's left the state of Michigan. If he has left either one of those places, then what are you doing? The only thing that I would like to know is that there's a deal in principle in place. And the only way that he doesn't take the Detroit Lions coaching job, offensive coordinator job, is if he goes and takes a head coaching job somewhere else. Now, a new contender for head coaching services has entered the chat. Mike Tomlin has stepped away from the Pittsburgh Steelers, 19 years in the biz, never having a losing season. But he's stepping down, and the Pittsburgh Steelers retain his rights. So anybody that wants to hire him would essentially have to trade for him. He cannot just be hired from anywhere. So you're looking at compensation, draft capital, all these things that would be necessary to trade for Mike Tomlin. So that is a very, very interesting situation to look at. Look, we're asking Mike McDaniel to come here, and this is the grit culture. But then we're looking at the AFC North, and we're like, yeah, he doesn't fit. I don't know how he would do with Lamar. I don't know. He's not a Steeler. He doesn't embody the grit and all this other stuff. Question I have to ask for you guys: did you care if Osama bin Johnson embodied the grit? I think grit was the least amount of your worries with Osama bin Johnson as far as does he have it or not? Does he fit the mold? You know, the culture. It's all about grit. Bro, as long as you can run the damn ball, we don't care what you got, going through your veins as an offensive coordinator. We didn't care about the defensive coordinator having grit because it's his job to send the players after the quarterback. It's his job to put the players in the position that they were supposed to be in. It's not his job to make the tackles. It's not his job to pick off the ball. It's not his job to force fumbles. It's not his job to get interceptions. But when you're the head man and the organization and the division and the fans and all this other stuff, they embody grit. Well, as the head man, you got to embody grit. I don't know if anyone looks at Mike McDaniel and says he embodies grit. He is a roughneck. He is rough and tumble. Maybe he's a little bit rough around the edges. I don't think too many people do that when they look at Mike McDaniel, which is why we assume, you know what they say about assumptions, which is why we assume that he does not fit in the AFC North. If you didn't fit with the Ravens, which we don't know if he does or not, you're definitely not going to fit with the Steelers. Now, here's the question. Actually, no, that's not a question. That's not a question because I already know the answer. So I'll leave that. I already know the answer to that. Okay. So that is the update for Mike McDaniel, is that there are no updates. I don't expect for Mike McDaniel to be able to leave or to be able to be hired before he leaves the Lions facility or before he left. I don't know where he is now because he's got coaching interviews lined up, head coaching interviews. So obviously, if you want to continue being a head coach, even though I don't think too many of these positions are attractive. You got 9 head coaching positions. And oh, by the way, the one that just opened up because Mike Tomlin decided to step aside, they also don't have a quarterback. That's another situation where you don't have a quarterback. And the Steelers are notoriously bad at quarterback. Since Ben Roethlisberger left all those years ago, they've struggled to do anything at that position. And oh, by the way, the Steelers are picking, in the 20s? So that's not a place to get a quarterback. You got to trade up pretty far to get a quarterback. You got to maybe mortgage your future. Is that quarterback here in existence in this draft class? We talked about this yesterday. We talked about the places where Mike McDaniel probably wouldn't go. And even if you're going to go to a place that's in position to draft a quarterback, is that who you want to hitch your wagon to? We don't know these things. So again, Mike Tomlin is out as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach after 19 years. He did not get fired. He stepped aside. Said he's going to take a year off, recalibrate. But if he wants to come back to coaching, again, the Steelers own his rights because he's still under contract. So he would essentially have to be traded. Okay. I'd like to welcome in everybody in the chat, but I can't see you. Hold on. All right. The other thing, it's pretty big, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Shout out my man Syndicate. He did a whole show on it today. And I'll just touch on a few things briefly. Sheila Ford Hamp, or Sheila Hamp as she likes to be called, put out her annual letter to the season ticket holders. And she said such things as, don't you ever get to thinking that you're irreplaceable. My man Syndicate, he was rocking to Comfortable. I'm going to throw in some Bay. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. Hey, right? Brad Holmes. We'll have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. Hey, to the left, to the left. Everything you own is a box to the left, left. Don't you ever get to thinking that you're irreplaceable. So, why was my man Syndicate telling Brad not to get too comfortable? And why am I telling y'all for Brad, don't you ever get to thinking that you're irreplaceable? We already talked about Brad eating humble pie and the press conference and all these other things that you saw. But Sheila said in the letter that conversations have been had, aka lines have been drawn in the sand. And when the line is drawn in the sand, if you cross it, you're gone. Okay? If you cross it, you're gone. Okay? And this wasn't just for Brad. I think it was for Dan as well. And you can understand that Dan got the message because look at the net that he is casting for the offensive coordinator position. It started out frustratingly enough with David Blau. Now there may be some legitimacy with David Blau being the next thing. He's next up. He's the next young hotness. What up to Mr. Morale 313? He's the new hotness. Maybe. But the fact that David Blau is a former Detroit Lions player, quarterback, hard knock star. It just didn't sit right. It didn't sit well with a lot of us. And now he's been hired by the Washington Commanders. They didn't let him out of the building, and he is the offensive coordinator. So instead of Dan Campbell going back to the well and going back to, oh, let me reach back and find some dude that I used to play with, some dude I used to coach with, some dude. He just, I'm casting a wide net. I'm looking for the new hotness too. I'm looking for the young offensive mind, Jake Peetz, not to be confused with Jake Bates. Jake Peetz, right? The Seattle Seahawks passing game coordinator. You know, who coached under Sean McVay, right? Casting a wide net. Why? Because he knows, Dan Campbell knows, you must not know about me. You must not know about me. I have another you in a minute. Right? Dan Campbell knows. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. Hey, Dan Campbell knows that is what's going down. Sheila Hamp said that the results of this season were not good enough. And she said, while it's not time for drastic change, this gives us all a chance to reset and evolve. Well, here's the thing that I want you to do. Because while my man Syndicate, he talked about Dan Campbell, he talked about Brad Holmes, I'm going to talk about somebody else. I'm going to talk about Sheila Ford Hamp. I'm not going to disparage Sheila Hamp at all. But I'm going to tell you like this, Sheila. If you want to evolve, got to go to the script club, baby. Got to go to the script club, baby. You got to make it rain. Because that's the only way that this team is going to evolve. You've got to do what the Patriots did and go buy yourself a defense. Because Lord knows we don't have one. Every year it's an excuse about something. Oh, our players got injured. Well, we keep drafting injury prone players, and not all of them are injury prone. But we do that. And we do sign guys that are injury prone. That's why they call him Bargain Bin Brad. That's why, because he's always shopping for bargains. And you're supposed to do that. But at the same time, when you were just building a roster and you just had to throw stuff at the wall and see what stuck, that was cute at the time. Okay? If I can borrow a term from, I don't remember who did the, was it Tom Brady? Did he do the Bears game? And his partner said something about terminal cuteness. Almost came to bite the Bears in the behind. Terminal cuteness. That's an illness that we all said, not all of us, some of us said that Osama bin Johnson suffered from in Detroit. You know who else suffers from terminal cuteness? Third round Brad. Third round Brad suffers from terminal cuteness. And Sheila said, to the left, everything you own in a box to the left. Don't you ever get to thinking that you're irreplaceable. To the left. That's what Sheila said to Brad. Sheila, I don't know if you have fully opened the pocketbooks. I don't know if you've done cut the purse strings and just said, here you go, Brad. I don't know if you gave Brad a blank check and said, fill it out and get a defense up in here. Fill it out and get an offensive line up in here. Because you may have told Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell that they better not ever get to thinking that they're irreplaceable. But it's not going to happen in the draft. Not the draft alone. We got too many holes. And we have so many holes because of the terminal cuteness that Brad Holmes suffers from. Terminal cuteness, Broderick Martin. Terminal cuteness, Hendon Hooker. Terminal cuteness, Manu. And we're going to talk about Manu in a bit. Terminal cuteness, Isaac TeSlaa. And Isaac TeSlaa may be a stud, but not a 3/3 round pick stud that we didn't need. So everyone who is involved in this situation, Dan, you got to get your ish together. Go ahead and get Brian Flores because he's out there. He hasn't returned to Minnesota. Now, someone said, shout out to the heavies. I was listening to them earlier. They talked about Brian Flores maybe being a target of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you know what validity that has? If you guys remember, when Brian Flores got blackballed by the league, guess who it was that brought in Brian Flores and gave him a chance to come back to the NFL? That would be one Mike Tomlin. Do you think he brought him in as a defensive assistant? He didn't bring him in as the defensive coordinator because he already had one, but he brought him in as a defensive assistant. And then he sat there for a year in that role, and then he went to Minnesota. Do you think that Mike Tomlin is not going to, if he hasn't already, put in a good word for Brian Flores? I mean, they already had Brian Flores in the building. But we'll see if that lawsuit situation is too big for him to shake. If Brian Flores does not get the head coaching job of any team, Shep, don't you ever get to thinking that you're irreplaceable. To the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. Your broke ass scheme and everything you own is in the box to the left. Brian Flores, come on in here. If Sheila Ford Hamp or Sheila Hamp is telling Dan and Brad, we need to poop or get off the pot, gentlemen, then you're damn right. Dan Campbell needs to bring in an all-star cast of coordinators. If you can bring in Mike McDaniel and Brian Flores, and you are not in the Super Bowl, I will sit up here and tell you I'm all out of ideas. But I don't know what to say because we got the all-star cast of coaches, coordinators, players to some extent. We've got all-stars. We've got all pros. Shout out Amon-Ra St. Brown, second team All-Pro. Shout out Penei Sewell, first team All-Pro. Shout out Jack Campbell, first team All-Pro. We got all pros. We got multiple time All-Pros. Penei Sewell with 3. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he's got a couple. So we have players. We need more players. But what else would let you know that this regime is serious about winning a Super Bowl? Because they say it. They talk about a Super Bowl or bust, but then we dick around in the 3rd round and draft people like Broderick Martin. Never forget. Hendon Hooker. Never forget. Manu. Never forget. He was drafted in the 4th round, but we used a 3rd rounder to trade into the 4th round to get him. We traded back up to get him because we weren't in the 4th round. We traded back into the 4th round with a 3rd round pick. Absolutely no sense. And it may be that the Detroit Lions do not believe that Manu, the guy I just talked about, is not yet ready to be a contributor. He is not ready for prime time, is what the Detroit Lions may be saying about young Manu. A bust, a bust, a bust. 2 of them are no longer on the team. One of them has been just given a huge vote of non-confidence. Earlier in the offseason, because this is a very young offseason, early in the offseason, it was said about Manu by Dan Campbell, yeah, he's going to have to be in here earning a job. He's going to have to beat somebody out now. And then they don't think so. Behind the scenes, they don't think that he will be able to do so. Another wasted 3rd round pick. Meow, meow. Dream deferred. Meow, meow. Terminal cuteness. So, Sheila, I need you to open that pocketbook. Brad, I need you to get rid of that terminal cuteness crap that you do in the 3rd round. Brad, I need you to stop signing and drafting injured players. I need you to stop saying stupid stuff like, well, obviously, you look at everything, but a person's injury history doesn't guarantee that they're going to get injured again. Just like a player could never have been injured before, and and then he gets injured when he comes and signs. So you can't look at things like that. Yes, you can, Brad. Right? Because there's a funny thing about the body. It's a funny thing. It's called frequency and time. Okay, frequency and time. So what happens with frequency is when things start to happen, they're more likely to continue to happen. It's a type of frequency. And then over time, as they happen, you're more susceptible for that thing to continue to happen because time doesn't sit still, it advances. So as you get older and your body naturally breaks down, now you're compiling everything on top of it, all the injuries, all the wear and tear of the game of football, and you have a perfect storm culminating in someone called an injury prone player. You see how that works, Brad? I didn't think I had to explain that to you, but apparently I did. So I need to stop with that bullcrap. The Ennis Rakestraws of the world, the guys that just couldn't participate in the pre-draft process because they were recovering from core muscle surgery. The guys that have been on your roster for 2 years and we don't even know what they look like. We don't have opinions about the play of Ennis Rakestraw because he doesn't do that. He doesn't play. Now, because you let Carlton Davis out of the door, we need another corner because DJ Reed is cheeks. And we wish we had someone that we could replace him with, but we don't have that person. Sure, it could be Ennis Rakestraw. Ennis Rakestraw could be phenomenal. But Ennis Rakestraw can't stay healthy. So we don't know how phenomenal he could be. Brad Holmes, I need you to stop being afraid of talented players. Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes. All this grit crap is great. But if you're going to take a guy that's a 6th round pick over a 1st round pick because you think he has grit, and you think the 1st round guy doesn't have grit, maybe he doesn't eat, sleep, and breathe football. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a podcast. Football is not the only thing he does. You may not want any divas and all those other things, but guess what? Brad Holmes comes from a place called F them Pittsburgh. It's not. F them Pix Angeles doesn't really sound. I mean, it sounds all right. F them Pix Angeles. Okay, whatever. He comes from that area. And in the 15-2 season, we did have a roster to F them picks. Because we still have Frank Ragnow. We still had an offensive line that could protect Jared Goff. Terminal cuteness, guys. Stop being afraid of the outside world. Dan Campbell looks to be unafraid of the outside world with this wide net that he is casting for the offensive coordinator position. Now we just need to get rid of the vet squad crap and stop thinking that professional practice players are going to be as good as starters and are going to be expected to do what the starters do. And then you go next man up, but you won't go and get a qualified man. He's got to be a practice squad man. Y'all need to stop that too. Because they are professional practice players. And what do? They practice football professionally. We're talking about practice. Let me get to your comments before I move on to the offensive line. All right. Cedric Sweeney says game time situations. Dan Campbell made all the stupid choices that cost us the games. The man gave himself an F grade. Come on, man. Yes. I didn't say Dan was safe at all. I said Dan Campbell is casting a wide net because he needs to. Okay, he needs to get the all-star cast of coordinators in here. That's what I'm saying about Dan Campbell. Why is your boy Syndicate acting like Brad only said what he said because Dan said it first? What was he supposed to say after that horrible season? I don't know. Nobody could have gotten up there and given themselves a grade worthy of passing. Don't know. I could have sworn these guys said they were joined at the hip, which means to me that they both had a hand in who comes to Detroit. Oh, I've said that. That's why I was talking about with the vet squad and all them dumb decisions and all this other stuff. Look, I'm gonna tell you what, bro. Nobody in their right mind thought that the Broderick Martin pick was a good pick. At the end of the day, Brad Holmes does have the final say in who he drafts. If both of them feel like throwing away third-round picks is a good strategy so that you can get project players in here, they both need to be fired. I'm not partial to people who are trying to bring me down. Just like I'm not partial to people who are being negligent in the way they run my football team. Yes, I said my football team. It's just as much mine as it is yours and theirs because we are invested in that team. We invest our time. We invest our efforts. We invest our emotions. We invest our energy. Many of us invest our money. I got 2 hats and a hoodie right here. That money is for the Detroit Lions. So if both of them were negligent, because that was negligence, malfeasance, some would say, to draft a Broderick Martin in the 3rd round, to draft a Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round, to use a 3rd round pick to trade back up and get Manu. If Dan Campbell is not just putting on a fake smile in the draft room when we make picks like that, he shouldn't be safe from the axe either. I'm saying. I do know Dan Campbell is far too high up on these practice squad players because they are professional practice players and they practice football professionally. That's what they do. That's in their job description. You guys will be paid for practice. You want to sign a contract? You want to be on the practice squad? We're going to pay you to practice. So they are professional practice players. They practice football professionally. All right. Brad has a limit. Sheila has the checkbook. Lions is owned by Ford Automotive. I said that. Y'all didn't I say that? Didn't I say, Sheila, you need to open up the pocketbook? Did y'all not hear me say that? Terminal cuteness. Golf ain't got nothing to do with terminal cuteness. Golf don't try to get cute. Campbell says he wants knee biters and looks at character. Again, I feel like you weren't listening to me. I feel like you weren't listening to me, or maybe you're just agreeing with me. So here's the thing. I agree with you because blah, 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 blah. Because I feel like you're fighting against me like I'm saying something different. We need to mirror the Texans defense. We need to stop looking no offense. The next great white hype and say getting a dog and get some Lions. Dan has to cast that net because he crapped the bed with the Morton hire. Facts. He knows. This is what I'm saying. To the left, Dan and Brad, everything you own is in a box to the left. Dan and Brad, don't you ever get to thinking, Dan and Brad, that you're irreplaceable. If Dan gets to thinking he's irreplaceable, he might go out and hire Anthony Lynn again. Like not Anthony Lynn 2.0, the same exact person, Anthony Lynn. That's what I'm saying. Dan is the one who preaches the 69-man roster. Again, I'm saying this. I'm saying it. I said it. The vet squad, all that stuff. We need to get rid of that. I've been saying that. It's stupid. No, you don't have a 69-man roster. You have a 53-man roster, just like every other team, and you have 16 professional practice players. And tell me what they do professionally. Do they practice football professionally? Do they practice it professionally? I just want to know. I don't even know who Broderick was. Nobody knows who he was. He was a bust. It seems like Houston's defense has fun out there. You don't see that with the Lions defense. No, is you have fun when you're dominant. When you can dominate the man across from you, it's fun, especially in a sport like football. You know how fun it is to dunk on somebody? You know, like no one seems to not have fun when they dunk on another man. Especially when you get to crotch area, especially when you do that, right? Pause. It's fun. They're having fun. So when the Houston defense chokes you out, no offensive production for you. What did the Steelers muster last night? 6 points? Did they muster 6? Wasn't the score like 24-6? I only caught bits and pieces of the game. I'm not going to hold you. But I knew what the Houston defense was going to do because they are number one. And sure, they may not have the greatest offense. CJ Stroud, I don't know what he'd be thinking. He threw 3 picks, right? Turned the ball over 3 times. But it doesn't matter. Because Houston said, let me go get Danielle Hunter. Let's get CJ Stroud and shock everybody in the league and trade right up to the number 3 pick. That probably took a lot of capital. We don't give a damn because Will Anderson and that entire offseason, that entire draft cycle, I was Will Anderson, Will Anderson, Will Anderson, Will Anderson. I had the Will Anderson pom-poms. I was like, W-I-L-L, who do we appreciate? Will, right? Appreciate is not a word. I just made it up. But, you know, I wanted to rhyme on time. Okay? And the Texans got him. And they brought in Danico Autry, got it we wanted. You right? And then they hired DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans, he sacked Aaron Rodgers before. DeMeco Ryans is a year older than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is 41, DeMeco's 42. DeMeco is 42. DeMeco was an all-pro linebacker and all this other stuff. Very good player. Super good. Super good, right? So, yes, they have an identity. I think Dan Campbell got confused. I really do. I think he got confused because he thought that grit was an identity and not a culture. So that's why we look so disjointed this entire season. We look bad on offense. We look terrible on defense. And then people want to spout numbers. And listen to me. I'm going to help you out. In life, the result is the result. Doesn't matter how you got there. The result is the result. You go out and something happens where you committed crime and you wind up in prison and you have all the reasons in the world, but let me tell you what. Everybody's going to not give a damn. Nobody cares because you're in prison. That's the result. How you get there doesn't matter. Now, the only thing that I can say is how you get there matters in terms of sentencing. How long are you going to be there? I didn't mean to stop his breath forever. I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't premeditate it. I actually was just trying to beat his ass. And he fell down and he hit his head on the curb. And I'm going to do 15 to 25 years for that. But if I meant to do it, if he fell down and hit his head on the curb and I proceeded to stomp and stomp and stomp like I planned to do, well, I'll be there for life. So the outcome is the result. It's what everybody cares about. So everybody that wants to sit up here and say, "Oh, we were the top 3 offense and top 3 score," we were 9-8 and we missed the playoffs. Anybody that wants to argue a numbers argument with you right now, today, as we sit here and we watch other teams play in the playoffs, and we watch other teams try to get to the Super Bowl, and they want to have a numbers argument with you, block them for their own good. Block them. Tell them how irrational and ridiculous they are being, and block them. Don't associate with them. Leave them to their own devices. So we got to get it together. That's the bottom line. Watching those draft room episodes on Inside the Den, it seems like they both agree on everything. They even got Sheila walking around happy like she knows who they just drafted. Again, negligence. I think Dan is lying. I hope Dan is lying. Because if Dan thought Broderick was a good pick, that was a good use of the 3rd round resources that we had. If Dan thought Hendon Hooker was a good pick, if Dan thought Manu was a good pick, then he should rightfully be on the hot seat. I think maybe he just convinced himself. And he said, you know what? Brad hasn't really been wrong this entire time, so let me just ride with it. Either that or he's lying, or he really believes it. And if he really believes it, again, he can go sit in the unemployment line with Brad. We're good. We're good, but I don't think they went and got Hunter. He wanted to go home to Texas, but they have built their defense to shut us down. The Lions have not. Justin Spiro seems to believe that the Lions could have had Danielle Hunter for the Terrion Arnold pick. I cannot confirm nor deny it, but he put it out there. Oh, what is going on, Justin Fan? How you been, man, guy? Everything good in the hood? I know you were dealing with some things. Brad and Dan built this team on grit because they both were try-hard players and may have envied the more talented players, which is why they came up with this no amount of talent is enough. Well, guess what? Guess what? How much non-talent? Okay, I want you to answer this question, Mr. Morrell. How much non-talent does it take for you to get to thinking that you're irreplaceable? How much non-talent does it take for you not to notice the box to the left? How much non-talent does it take for you not to know about me? Because I will have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. And in this situation, I guess it's a they'll be here in a minute because it got to be Brad gone and Dan gone. How much non-talent does it take? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck everything he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. But a woodchuck won't chuck anything at all because a woodchuck can't chuck wood. Yes, just a fan. That's what I was talking about. I didn't mention it. I didn't know if you wanted that all to be public. Because you did message me about that before. That's why I said, are you okay? 5 years worth, that is a good place to start. That's a good place to start. Now, it depends on if you think that they have one more year or if they play out their contract with the two. But I think if they don't poop or get off the pot, if they don't poop, because they've been on the pot for quite some time, if they don't poop, then they will be getting off the pot. And it depends on how spectacularly they don't poop. Right? Because pooping means making another run to the NFC Championship game and going to the Super Bowl. How spectacularly did they flame out? How congested and constipated are they? If they are like royally constipated, I don't think they get another year. You know? Facts. Everybody reach out to Just a Fan and support him in whatever way you guys can. We had a bad year because of our O-line being so bad. They will address that and we will be fine. James Buchanan. How many resources do we have to address the offensive line? So here's why that excuse doesn't fly. Because Brad Holmes in his press conference, when asked about the Frank Ragnow situation, he said that there were breadcrumbs, meaning inklings that he knew that the retirement was coming. And speaking of this, there's an article that I will get to quickly. I will just touch on it. Pause. Really quickly, this is from Leslie Cost. Trade. Okay. We're not going to look at all the other stuff. Okay. Cardinals center Schlatti. He's definitely Scandinavian. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Alte. Because my baloney has a first name. It's OCAR. My baloney has a second. It's AY. Is on the older side of 39 years old, so this isn't going to be a thing. Frankly, anyone the Lions try to trick for, it's likely to be a long-term guy. Lions would have to go to free agency or the draft for that. Remember, money, resources, got to spend them. With that said, is a solid starting center, has been for the last 3 years for Arizona. He can pass block, and more importantly, he can run block. In 2024, he had one of the highest run blocking grades in the league among centers via Pro Football Focus. On the pass side of things, he allowed just one sack in 2025. Just one sack. Pressure up the middle. Remember, that's interior offensive line, folks. Pressure up the middle. Just one sack. Oh, it seemed like Graham Glasgow and Tristan Colon and all and and Egipon or Ebukan or Wagwan, whatever his name is, Kingsley. It seemed like they let up one sack a game. If I'm being real. All right. What would the Lions have to pay? Here's the thing. Listen to this now. The Lions could probably get this done for a 2026 sixth round pick. They would be on the hook for a $6 million cap hit in 2026, and then he'll be a free agent in 2027. If you can really get this man for a sixth round pick, I just want y'all, because they said they're going to be aggressive. Define it if you want. That's what they said. Okay? What is aggressive really? How do you define aggressive? I do not know, Captain. I am a Vulcan. I am not a human. Hashtag if you know, you know, use the hashtag. Commanders center Tyler Biadasz. All right, it's Biadasz. Okay. I don't know if anyone's ever seen how his name is spelled. Biadasz is Biadasz. I say Biadasz. Especially if he comes to the Detroit Lions, he will be Biadasz. Hopefully. Another player on the older side in terms of age, but another guy who's been a solid and consistent starter for years. He allowed 3 sacks this year, but he was the 13th highest graded run blocking center in the league. Over the Cap recently listed him as one of the NFL's big cut candidates going into the offseason. Cut candidate. We don't have to trade for him. We can get him for money. The Lions could come in and make an offer and allow the Commanders shed his contract and get something in return. In the meantime, what the Lions would have to trade if they traded for him, the Lions could send over the 2026 fifth round compensatory pick they're projected to get for Kevin Zeitler, and that could get the deal done. Remember, guys, NFL trades are extremely low. There's a lot of guys in the NFL, and it's been happening for years now, that you have to understand this is the norm. I would say 99% of the trades in the NFL do not involve high draft capital. That's why every time that happens, they call it a blockbuster trade. Case in point, Sauce Gardner went to the Indianapolis Colts. Terrible trade, by the way. Awful. 2 first-round picks. That's not normal in the NFL. So trading for offensive linemen for 5th and 6th round picks and 4th round picks. Now you see why I'm so pissed off about the 3rd round picks. 3rd round picks on the trade market. Oh, you can get players for 3rd round picks. Remember Carlton Davis? Remember him? He was good, right? Plays for the Patriots now. He's still in the playoffs. He ain't sitting at home. 3rd round pick. And then after being traded for a 3rd round pick, he goes and gets $20 million a year from the New England Patriots. He must be a pretty good player if he's getting $20 million a year as a corner. I don't know. Maybe. Okay. Jets center Joe Tippmann. The Jets tried Tippmann at right guard this season, and it went well, but he was so much better as a center. The thing is that the Jets have Josh Myers there now. This is the Lions' best chance at a long-term center via trade, as Tippmann is still just 24 years old. This is all going to depend on what the Jets want to do and if they're going through a full rebuild on offense or if they want to see what they can get out of the guys they have now. Before I get to the compensation, I don't think that happens. You got a guy that can play center, which is the most important position on the interior offensive line, and then he can play guard as well. He's 24 years old. Don't think you move on from that guy. I'm sorry. Okay, I just don't. But what the Lions would have to trade. Detroit would have to give up at least a 4th-round pick in this year's draft to get this done. The Jets are taking a risk by letting this young player, whom they took in the 2nd round in 23 go. They're going to want something to ease that concern. It wouldn't surprise me if they wanted a 3rd-round pick. Guess what? We don't have 3rd-round picks. Okay. All right. That was the 3 guys that we could possibly trade for. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Brad Holmes had some big home runs, but many big strikeouts and ground into double plays. And Brad Holmes told us he isn't changing. Indeed. One fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. Swine, my brother. Thank you for your kind words. No problem, just a fan. We miss you around here, bro. So come on through as much as you can. You're always welcome. Who are you talking about not getting another year? No one is not getting another year. I don't know what you mean. I'm talking about after their contract. They have 2 years left in their contract. My thing is, if they flame out spectacularly next season, will they get another year? Will they get their last year of the contract? That's my question. It was way more than the O-line. It was. Our offensive woes were caused by the offensive line, and guess what? Our defensive woes were caused by the defensive line. We need better line play. It's very simple, right? We need better line play. There was a chance, but in the end, he probably thought he would stick one more year out. You have a contingency plan for a guy who has an inoperable foot, 4 toes, and is constantly getting injured and battling through those injuries. He tore a pec and missed 3 games. You got to have a contingency plan, and they didn't have one. If you thought Graham Glasgow was, you fooled yourself. They did, and they fooled themselves. I mean, it's your job as a general manager to do things. Okay? And the point was, hey, we've got these 3rd-round picks that I'm going to piss away every season, that I'm going to go to the club and I'm going to pay for lap dances with these 3rd-round picks. I'm tricking them off because we don't need them. Who needs a Bryant Young or a Yahya Diaby or Colby Turner or any of these people that were drafted in the 3rd round? Who needs them? Go get Hendon Hooker. And since this 3rd round, this 3rd round was a wash, go get Broderick Martin after that. We had 2 3rd-round picks that we tricked off. How do you, in the same round, make 2 terrible picks? Is it because you saw all the defensive players going after Hendon Hooker and you said, I got to get one of these defensive players? So in your knee-jerk reaction phase, you drafted Broderick Martin? If you don't remember, Hendon Hooker was drafted first in the very same 3rd round. And then came Broderick Martin. And as I said, there were a lot of guys in between Hendon Hooker and Broderick Martin. I'm just saying. Just saying. I no longer trust or believe Brad Holmes because he is unable to admit his moves over the past 2 years were wrong. And I think that's a lot of fans are feeling that way, and a lot of fans are still with the copium and the "in Brad we trust" stuff. And here's my question. And if you can answer it for me, First, I'm gonna do this. Mailbag, mailbag. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they reading you? Mailbag, mailbag. Snick, 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 mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. All right. So my question is this. Everybody loved the Jahmyr Gibbs draft, right? Because you love Jahmyr Gibbs. You love Jack Campbell. You love Sam Laporta. You love Brian Branch. If you hit on all of that, I'm not a gambler, but I'll put it like this. If you're gambling, and let's say you're at the casino and you're shooting craps, shooting dice. Yeah, you're at the crap table. Bam, hit. Bam, hit. Bam, hit. Bam, hit. And then you go, hey, I just hit 4 times in a row. Somebody give me some new dice. Why? Did you not like winning? Did you want to crap out? I mean, that's what he did. He just took the new dice and went, bam, Hendon Hooker. Oh, crapped out. Bam, Broderick Martin. Oh, crapped out. What was the problem? Why couldn't you get a Bryant Young? Why couldn't you get a Yahya Diaby? Why couldn't you get somebody that would have helped your team? That's my question. Why couldn't you get someone to help your football team? And that's why that's why when I talk about these 3rd round picks, and you just saw the NFL trade machine, you saw how valuable a 3rd round pick is, because they're talking about getting a center for a 6th, a 5th, and a 4th. Each one of those. Nobody in that situation went above a 4th. And you know why Mike Payton selected those 3 players? Because none of them were going over a 4th. And we don't have 3rd round picks to trade. Right? But if you could take a 6th round pick and you can parlay it into Shiaji Ford Holt, if you could take a 5th round pick and parlay it into Tyler Biadasz, right? If you could take a 4th round pick and parlay it into Tippmann, what are you doing selecting in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th round? If you really can do that, give it up. Give up the pick. Nobody cares. Brian Holmes loves his broken toys and projects. This is true. Don P, I've missed your great FB insight. Keep putting out the great content. Hey, man. Appreciate you, man. And we miss you around here in the chat. So like I said, please do grace us with your presence whenever you can. I think hindsight is playing a big part in how we view those picks that were made. Had those picks hit, then nobody would be talking about the 3rd round. So it's a catch-22 situation, really. Oh, no, I get you. I feel you. But here's the thing. There were 2 of those picks that nobody was excited about. Nobody was excited about Broderick Martin because we were like, who? And then like people were trying to get tape on him, and you saw a film of him standing straight up on the snap. And we were like, okay. Right? And the Manu pick. The Manu pick, when we traded into the 4th round with the 3rd round, and we got this guy, and you're like, who is that? And then you go, oh, his tape looks like high school because he's in British Columbia, but he was playing in college, but he looked like it was high school tape. It looked like they recorded it on Huddle. And you were like, yeah, he's big and fast. He's a specimen, but right? The only pick that was surprisingly bad was Hendon Hooker, but if you listened to the knocks on him coming out, yeah, that Tennessee offense he was in was pretty gimmicky. I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to pick up a pro-style offense. And guess what? He was here for 3 years and couldn't pick up the offense. And looked worse every single year. Every single preseason, he looked worse than he did the year before. So I get the hindsight part, but 2 of those picks were not hindsight. One of those picks, I know I hated that pick immediately. I spazzed out with the Isaac TeSlaa pick. And I really don't care what Isaac TeSlaa turns out to be. The only way that Isaac TeSlaa can justify being you using 3 third-round picks on him is if he can score more touchdowns than Jared Goff gets sacked because we don't have an offensive line. If he becomes so unstoppable, but anytime you feel pressure, you turn and you throw the ball to Isaac TeSlaa and he's going to get you 10, 15, 20 yards. That's the only way that you can justify using 3 third-round picks on a wide receiver when you needed an offensive lineman or 2 or 3. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think it's all hindsight. Nobody was over the moon, super duper happy. Like I said, the Hendon Hooker pick was the only one that had potential to be worthy of anything. And then we just went right over the top with Isaac TeSlaa. Like Isaac TeSlaa was the most egregious of them because you were just like, oh, we don't have any holes. With all the injuries that we have, you went and you got a receiver for 3 third-round picks. I'm just saying. Spending 3 third-round picks, 3 third-round picks for TeSlaa, nobody was excited about that. Right. They both were drafted for pure size. Who Manu and Broderick? Yeah, and that's not good enough. That's a bad strategy. Hey man, I'm just gonna draft a bunch of big guys. Yeah, and that's bad. That's terrible. Like that's not talent evaluation. That's the opposite of talent evaluation. That's size evaluation. Ooh, this dude's big. Yeah, we need him on our team. That's that Marcellus Wiley stuff. When he was like, when I would go to the playground, they would pick me first, and then for basketball, and then realize I suck because they're like, "Oh, that dude's big." You do that on the playground. You don't do that when you get paid millions of dollars a year to evaluate talent. That's crazy. A sugar cookie, man. This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I really wanted the best for him. And the Hooker, yeah. But he just wasn't it. And then he got cut and he went to Carolina and was like, yeah, it feels good to be in a place where you're wanted. Yeah, we gave you 3 years. And then they gave you 3 weeks. Get out of my face. Yeah. I was confused by the TeSlaa pick as well. TeSlaa is Brad's way for making up for not drafting Puka. And that makes me even more angry because Puka was drafted in the 5th round, and a round in which you took Colby Sorsdal, Dale Dahl, whatever, ass. Okay, Colby Sorsdas. Pause. No Diddy. Okay. Colby Soars Turnstile. Okay, that's who you pick. That's who you pick in the 5th round over Puka. Now you pick somebody over Puka, that's fine, right? That's hindsight. When you're like, oh, you could have had Puka in the 5th round, so could everybody else have had Puka because everybody else passed on him. That's not why I'm upset. I'm upset because you drafted Colby Sorsdal. If you would have drafted anybody else over Puka, I probably would have been able to stomach it. If you drafted a kicker or a punter over Puka, I probably wouldn't care. As long as that kicker is still on our team and he's better than Jake Bates, that's fine. I don't care. But because it was Colby Sorsdal, that's the issue. What up, though? Greater good. All right, we about to get out of here, man. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Once again, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And hopefully tomorrow we'll be talking about Mike McDaniel, new offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, but maybe not. All right, we got a couple more, and I'll get to them. I'm here to talk that cash money about Bradley Mahomes, Adolph Diddy III. Well, you should have been here an hour ago. Brad Holmes has a personal connection to Hendon Hooker, his father. Yes, we know. We know. He's known the family for years. It was a bad pick. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.